Hello, can
What we do in the global
so
economy.
I'm actually here to send the link. So I'll be sending the link. It's going to be a YouTube link, so I'll send it to them. I already have their details.
Okay, you're gonna send it to
Yes.
my to the same email, right? The same
Yes.
Facebook thing. Okay,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes. So
okay,
I'm not the one anchoring your event at all. So you'll be seeing a different face altogether.
okay. All right, cool.
Okay, John. I have
Ciao.
to go now.
Okay, ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, John.
Hey, good morning, everyone. How are we doing today? Can you hear me?
We're fine, thank you.
Excellent.
Beautiful. So good to have you here this morning.
Oh, it's my honor, my pleasure. Thank you.
Morning in Nigeria. What time is it on your end?
6:04 a.m.
Oh,
You haven't beat the record though. I've been up 3 a.m. in the past.
so yes. Wow, thank you so much for accepting our invitation to speak to our people. Good morning, everybody on Facebook, on YouTube. Welcome to Business and Career Shift. We're getting gradually to the end of this year's edition, and this morning we have a very special person joining us all the way from the United States. We have John Angel. Without wasting much time, because we're a bit behind schedule, let's receive John Angel officially, and you can take it off from here, sir. We'll post John's profile in the live stream, so we can go through. Let's not take up much more time with the reading of the profile. We're so happy to have you, sir. Please go ahead with your session.
Okay, great. And I have some slides for you guys. I don't have control to show some slides. Can the organizer give me that?
Okay, I'll make you admin, right, host, co-host. So
Super.
why can't I make him co-host here? What's going on?
So while we're working on that, I will start by telling you guys that this morning we are going to talk about networking. This is an area where I'm particularly skilled. I have a rather large network of about 18,000 people around the world. Many of them are C-level executives from major companies like Google and Progressive and Lloyd's Banking Group. I post every day on LinkedIn and on my social networks useful information to help the people in my network. So every day I try to do 5 things for the people in my network. One of them is I provide useful information to help them grow as a person or as a business person. 2, I provide PR opportunities for people. So I try to help make sure that people get visibility, and everybody likes to see their name in the newspaper. 3, I give people opportunities to make money. And if you want to build a relationship with somebody, help them make money. 4, I will make connections between people, so I'm known as a very good connector. When people are looking for people, they come to me for advice. And then 5, I try to make people laugh and smile. So those 5 things I try to provide every day. If we don't have, how about this, guys? Can you give me an email in the chat, and I will shoot the slides over to somebody over there? Sorry about the technical challenge, guys. It's a little early here for me, so we didn't get a chance to do a dry run. Can somebody put an email in the chat?
Wants an email so you can drop the slide for us. I can't make math as well. Hello, John.
Yeah, hi guys. I'm here. I'm waiting for the the email to come. All right. If we don't have that, I can go ahead and give the presentation, and you guys could look at the slides later. Do you want to do that? Ah, there it is. Okay, I have it. Thank you guys. I am a little sleepy. Un momentito. All right. I hope you guys like these slides. They made me laugh making them. All right. Voila, the wisdom place. Okay, guys. So while this is traveling its way across the ocean, I'm going to make you a promise that I make to everyone that comes to one of my talks, and I mean this sincerely. So I think it's important to assign a dollar value to the thing that I'm going to present you. I promise you that what I'm going to present you this morning is going to be worth $10,000 US to you. So if you have a pen or a paper, make sure that you get that out. And there's a warning that comes with that. So I'll read you the warning real quick. Actual amount earned from these tools today may vary. Use ideas with caution. Prolonged usage may result in unexpected opportunities to make money, new powerful friends, obtain your dream job, and other side effects. So use these with caution. So I have had the opportunity to work all over the world. I've worked in Tokyo, and I've worked in northern Italy, worked in France, worked in the UK, and these networking advice that I'm about to give you today are things that I've used in all of these different places, in Cuba, in Brazil, and they've worked quite effectively. And so I'm very excited to share them with you this morning so that you can apply them in Nigeria, and I can make sure that my global my suggestion that these work everywhere in the world can be proven out yet again. All right, so the important thing about networking is research. It's very important if you're going to make a connection with somebody to do extensive research. There's 3 tools that I use pretty regularly. One of them is Google. So I always try to Google somebody. If you Googled me, you'd see I have about 250 media mentions in publications all over the world, and that helps give me authority when I'm speaking to a group or when I'm trying to get a client. I use LinkedIn, so it's very important to use LinkedIn. If you can look at somebody's background, it may be the case that you have several mutual friends. So in some industries, among the senior executives, I know hundreds of the people in that industry, and that can really be a positive opener if one of your friends is already an existing friend of that person that you're going to talk to. They can soften and make the introduction very easy. And then LexisNexis, I find that reading articles about the industry that I'm trying to make connections in is quite an effective way to find the people that I need to talk to. So articles will always contain experts. Okay, yay, I can share my screen now. So here we go. Let's make this happen. I think that's going to be it. All right, guys. Yay. Here we go. And I am sorry. There we go. All right. Yay. Networking power tools. So this is one of my favorite quotes. In the shadow of darkness, I stand in the light. Here's the $10,000 promise that we've talked about. So in 40 minutes, I'm going to give you $10,000 worth of value. I worked all over the world, and I hope that these pieces of advice will help you achieve the things that you dream about. I've even gone to a private party at the Vatican, which was super cool. Research is the key to making connections with people. So LinkedIn is the single most valuable tool that I've ever used in business. I also use Google and LexisNexis quite a lot. Don't be afraid to approach people. The reason that most people don't get what they want in life is because they're afraid to ask. You'll never get anything if you don't ask. So make sure that you make your asks every day for the things that you want. Gift can attest to the fact that this really does change your life. When you go to an event, I want you to be able to own the room. So how many of you guys, put this in the chat, how many of you guys have ever gone to a networking event and felt uncomfortable, right? So a lot of times people go to a networking event and either one, they just stand in the corner by themselves, or two, they spend most of the time talking to people they already know and they're not really achieving much. So I'm going to give you a strategy that'll help you own the room. So the first thing that you need to do is when you come to an event, ask to meet the organizer. And this is what you're going to say to the organizer. Look, I would be happy to help in any way. Is there anything that you need? Chances are she's going to say one of two things. One, go do XYZ. And then if you go to XYZ, now you're part of the organizing committee. And so you're part of integrated into the organization. Most likely, she will say, no, we have everything covered. Now, since you just offered to do something for her, help her organize the event, she will do something for you if you ask. So the ask that you want to make is, can I meet the connector? You know, the person that knows everybody in the room. And in every networking event, there's always that social butterfly that knows everyone in the room. So the organizer will take you over to meet the connector. Now you know the organizer and the connector. You're, light years ahead of most of the people in that room. I want you to spend basically 2 to 3 minutes with that connector, getting to know them. You're looking to try to find out what are the things that they're interested in. So that you can help them later, right? So you have a little conversation with them. You're asking them questions about the things that they're interested in. And then you roll off because you have a job to do, even if the organizer didn't know that you have that job. And that's to find the most uncomfortable person in the room. So you're going to look for the most uncomfortable person in the room. You know, that person that's hiding under the desk or behind that pillar, or has their head in a bush. You want to find that most uncomfortable person, and you're going to go up to them and you're going to ask them some specific questions that will help you engage them. So you're going to try to integrate those uncomfortable people into the group and help them be more successful. So the questions that I ask is, I ask people to tell me about themselves. I ask what motivated them to come to the event. And then I ask them, who do they want to meet? And then I bring them over to the connector and say, I just met Gift. She would like to meet, experts in bulldogs. And so then I've introduced Gift to the connector. The connector will know if there's anybody in the room that's an expert in bulldogs. I want you to stay till the end of the event. Even the organizer's best friend won't stay until the end of the event. I want you to stay because if you stay till the end of the event, then you can help clean up. And this is going to win you favor with the organizer. If you're helping them clean up, they will they will feel like you're their new best friend. Now, since you help them clean up, you can feel free to ask. And what you're going to do is you're going to offer to organize. So if you like the event and you want to connect with them more, say, tell the organizer, look, I had a really good time, met some great people. I'd be happy to help you organize the next event. I know that these things take a lot of work. Why don't you let me invite the speaker? Now, the reason that you want to invite the speaker is speakers are leaders in their industry, and speakers love to talk. That's how they promote themselves. So if you reach a speaker and you offer them an audience, you're going to immediately have a new friend. Years ago, I was trying to break into the real estate industry in Manhattan. I joined the New York CPA Society, the real estate committee, and I offered to invite a speaker to their annual event. I got to bring the keynote, and he was the former chief operating officer for Goldman Sachs. So that was an opportunity for me to meet the chief operating officer for Goldman Sachs, give him the chance to speak to 500 people in a room. Everybody thought I was best friends with him, and so that elevated my status among the audience that I was trying to build influence with, and then it also helped me make a new friend. If you can't be the speaker, for several years, I was the photographer for a national association, and that was really fun. You go to their events, you usually get to go for free. I took photographs of all the leaders in the payment industry, and then that gave me the chance to meet all of them. If you're the photographer, you get to meet everybody, and they give you their business cards, and you feel like you have something that you have to do, and that thing that you do connects you with everyone. People would seek me out and specifically ask me to take a photograph for them because they were happy with the one that I did the year before. Also, when they share their photo on social media, they're going to give you photo credit, so you're getting out to more people that way. The one that's really not valued enough is handing out the name tags. If you hand out the name tags in an event, you're sure to meet about a third of the people. And if you give somebody their name tag, then you have the chance to see their name in person written down, and so it's going to be much more likely that you're going to remember their name. If you do all those things, you will soon be recognized as a leader in any organization, right? So you meet the organizer, you ask for the connector, you help people that feel uncomfortable by being the informal host in the room. They're going to be grateful to you because you help them be more comfortable as well as more effective in what they're trying to achieve. And in doing this, you're expanding and building your network and building trust with people. And that's one of the things that you're really trying to achieve through a networking event. And then, you're by staying and helping clean up and offering to help, you're becoming part of the leadership of the group. Leadership really comes through action. If you want to be a leader, start to make contributions, right? And you will soon find yourself as event organizer and then eventually vice president of membership or treasurer or something. Whatever needs to be done in any particular group, be the first to volunteer. Here's how you own a city. Now, this works in Paris, it works in Tokyo, it works in New York. I'm not sure if it works where you live now, but I'm sure there's some modification to use these ideas. So in every city, there are 100 to 150 people who are the most important people in the city. Those people are the ones that make sure everything gets done. And how do you find those 100 and 150 people, right? So if you're networking, it's really important that you focus in on the people so that you can use your time most effectively. So how do you find the 100 or 150 people that are the most important people in the city that you live? The good news is somebody's already done most of this work for you. There are the boards of the national nonprofits. So in the U.S., it's the YMCA, the Red Cross, Rotary, Big Brothers Big Sisters, U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Where you live, it could be there's usually a U.S. Chamber of Commerce in most major cities around the world. There's your church, your other organizations that are the significant organizations, perhaps a hospital in your community. Who is on the boards of the most important organizations in your community? Those people are among the 150. If you look at those boards and you reach out to the members, you're going to find the most successful people in your community. So how do you connect to them? Well, volunteer with that nonprofit, and then invite them to a coffee. Say, I volunteered last week with the Red Cross. I have some ideas for you. As a board member, can we meet for coffee and let me share some of the ideas? Now you're sitting down with one of these 150 people, and you're giving them something useful. And your perspective, your opinion, is valuable. So whatever you learned, good or bad, from being one of their volunteers is something that they need to hear, and they will be grateful for. And if you start to do this, one of the things that you're going to find is before long, other people on that 150 list are going to know who you are, and likely they will start to invite you out to coffee because they've heard about you as somebody who's trying to get something done. Particularly young people, people who show that they have energy, want to contribute. These leaders are looking to develop and mentor the next batch of leaders, and this is how you become on their radar for them to mentor. I did a lot of PR work for associations in my community when I moved here years ago. And the great thing about that is if you're doing the PR work, then you're the face of the organization. And not only are you networking within the 100 people, but now you're representing the organization on media, and people are going to get to know you as somebody who gets things done in the community. There was a time when all the reporters knew me because I did this so much for so many different organizations. They joked about the fact that maybe I was, the only face of organizations. So, you don't have to do all the work, but if you do the PR, you get the credibility, you get the visibility, and people attribute a lot of things to you. So I recommend that you offer to do the PR work for any organization. It's a great way to get known in your community. If you don't have the opportunity to do that, or you just want to get greater visibility or do things that are fun, you can host and throw your own events, and then automatically you can do the PR for them, right? So one that I do in my community is every summer I throw a pool party in honor of my late sister, and throwing this pool party gives me the opportunity to invite everybody in the community. We get a DJ, we have a dance party for the kids, super fun. Everybody in the community knows that I do this thing, and it builds a lot of goodwill for me, right? So I'm giving everybody in the community something. I'm giving them the opportunity to come have a good time. So that's organizing fun events. Now let's talk about how we can turbocharge all of this with social. So Twitter, this is one of the most valuable things that I can teach you. Twitter is an editor for people. Now, what do I mean by that? Twitter can give you the opportunity to, and I just want to check for a second and make sure that I haven't lost you guys. Okay, looks like we're good. All right. Here we go again. All right, so Twitter as an editor for people. So the great thing about Twitter is that it actually does what an editor does, right? So what does an editor do? An editor makes sure that you get information in the most efficient way possible. So some years ago now, one of my friends came to me and he said, John, I need to find the best behavioral economist in the world. How do I do that? And my friend was a professor at Harvard at the time. And so I said, well, why don't you go down the hall? Like there's probably several there. And then I thought, who would I call? right? Who would I call if I was trying to find the best behavioral economist in the world? And I would call this man. So this man is a professor. He has a best-selling book called Nudge. They just introduced a latest edition of Nudge. He was in The Big Short, which was an Academy Award-winning movie with Selena Gomez. And most importantly, Richard Thaler won the Nobel Prize for his work in behavioral economics. It's fair to say that Richard Thaler is the bomb diggity of behavioral economics. Richard Thaler is the Oprah or the LeBron James of behavioral economics. So I went to Twitter to do a little research before I reached out and called Richard Thaler. And as I was on Twitter, I realized that Richard Thaler had already told me who the best behavioral economists in the world were. Right? So how did Richard Thaler tell me who the best economists in the world are without speaking to Richard Thaler? Well, if you look at Richard Thaler's Twitter account, you see who follows him, but more importantly, you see who Richard Thaler follows. So these are the people that Richard Thaler is paying attention to and devoting his energy to, right? And so if you look at who, whoever the Oprah Winfrey or the LeBron James is of whatever you're interested in, and you find that person's Twitter account, look at who they follow, those are the people that you need to follow. Those are the people that you need to get to know. So in no time, you can find the best people in the world at anything. And I used this for one of my students who is from Haiti. She grew cocoa, and she said her cocoa could be traced back to Christopher Columbus, but she was having trouble finding the people who would pay the most for her cocoa. And so I thought about that, and I realized that it would be gourmet chefs because they have the best palate. And so we used Twitter to find the organizer of the World Cup of Chocolate. We looked at who he followed, and that gave us 400 of the best chefs in the world. And then so in one night, we were able to introduce her to 400 of the best chefs in the world. And this literally changed her business overnight, right? So this is such a powerful tool to know who the best people in the world are at anything, and to get that through authoritative source like Richard Thaler in the case of behavioral economics is incredibly powerful. And this is available to each and every one of you guys for whatever it is you're interested in. You're gonna see your equivalent of Richard Thaler. You're gonna get to know the best in your industry and whoever that person's mom is, right? So I wish you well with this. It's quite useful. LinkedIn. So these are some old stats back when I had just 8,000 connections on LinkedIn. Today I have approaching 14,000 connections on LinkedIn, over 450 C-level executives, 1,000 VPs, 1,100 directors. LinkedIn gives us the possibility to connect to anyone, anywhere in the world. You can use LinkedIn to find those people, and direct message them. I've had great success with LinkedIn as a mechanism for reaching out cold to people. I'm quite good friends now with many leaders. And in fact, at this point, I get board members of at least 2 Fortune 500 companies. Western Union and JetBlue have reached out to me cold via LinkedIn. So I highly recommend LinkedIn. I make sure that I post several times a day, something useful to LinkedIn as a way of connecting to people, and it's helped me a lot in everything that I do. People will often mention my LinkedIn post as something that they value. Facebook is your closest, your 5,000 closest connections. So Facebook is something that you can show a little bit more personality. You can, be more of yourself. Twitter is like a cocktail party. LinkedIn is like a more formal business event. But Facebook gives you the opportunity to maybe express more about your family, more about what's going on in your life. And this is a good way to efficiently develop and retain those closer connections for you. Now, A lot of people don't realize this, but did you know that you already have a network of 62,500 people? It's true. It's true. The average person has 250 people that would go to their wedding or their funeral. And so these are people that would go, they would go distances to be with you. They would buy you a gift. Those 250 people really care about you. And each of those 250 people have 250 people. So that means that you have an army of 62,500 people that will help you start that business, that will help you find that job that you need. You have 250 people who are there for you. And so make sure that you cultivate those 250 people and that you make sure that they know exactly what you're looking for. They can't help you if they don't know what you need. But if you ask your 250 people, they will help you, and they will bring in their 250 people, and pretty soon, whatever it is that you need, you will be able to get. I've used this very effectively in the past to do everything from finding doctors in rural Haiti to helping somebody find a DJ, somebody who used to be a DJ in Tokyo. So I had a student who wanted to be an EM DJ in Tokyo, and I was able to find from my 250 somebody that had been an EM DJ in Tokyo, and this helped her learn how to do that. And so that's a great example of, your 250 people bringing in their people to help you as well. So always remember, this should give you confidence. There are 62,500 people in the world that will work hard to help you get whatever it is you want. All you need to do is be credible that you're actually working towards that thing you want, and make sure that you're grateful and you treat those connections with respect. Every one of us can be charismatic. So this book, The Charisma Myth, was brought to my attention. And when I saw the endorsements, I saw the endorsement of my favorite author. My favorite author is a man named Robert Cialdini. Robert Cialdini is famous for a book that he wrote called Influence, The Art of Persuasion. It's one of the best books that I've ever read in my life. And Cialdini never endorses a book. And I saw Cialdini endorse this one. And so how can you be charismatic? Well, Olivia tells us that there are 3 things to being charismatic. Okay, the first one is to be present in the moment with the person. People can feel it if you're there with them, right? So you want to be present. And then the next thing is you want to be powerful. So you want to have at least the impression that you can do something to make that person's life better. And that could be, as simple as making them laugh. Or it could be that you have some knowledge that they don't have, but some way to make them present, right? So if you have these first 2, you're present and you're powerful, and you don't have this third one, you're actually a little bit scary. The third one is empathy. You have to care about them, right? So people can tell if you care about them. And if you care about them, they're going to feel a connection to you. So present, powerful, you care. Now, whenever I'm reading a book, I always try to think about how I would make it better. And I have 2 additions to Olivia's list. The next one is purpose. You have a clear purpose in your life. Think about it in your own life. When you meet somebody that has presence, they're powerful, they care about you, and they have a clear purpose in what they're doing, that's an incredibly charismatic person. And then to take that to the next level, live without scarcity. So have the belief that you can create. And if you have those 5 things, present, powerful, you care about other people, you have purpose, and you understand that you have the ability to create, right? So we're all God's creatures. We're all part of creation. And so believing that you have the power to create will make you incredibly charismatic. So I think it's really important to feed your mind, These are some of my favorite sources, and I consult these. And people. One of the students asked me once, John, I wish I could live in your mind for a day. Finally, this is my mentor, Jenny. Jenny is in her 80s. Until recently, she traveled around the world, making people laugh or smile. Jenny used to work with Patch Adams. And Jenny gave me the most powerful piece of networking education ever. About 15 years ago, Jenny told me, John, I want you to be less stuffy. I want you to get out into the world. So tomorrow I want you to make everyone you meet laugh or smile. And I remember sitting in the parking lot of that grocery store and thinking, am I going to make everybody laugh or smile? And I thought, well, I can do anything for a day. So that day I made everybody I met laugh or smile. It was such a good time that I've never stopped doing it. I highly recommend that you try this piece of homework at least for a day. Today, make everybody you meet laugh or smile. You'll find that if you do that, you really can never have a bad day, because if you're feeling a little bit down, everyone else will help lift you up, right? And it's really fun to go into a place and hear people say, John's here, because they're happy to see you. So I encourage you guys to make everyone you meet laugh or smile. And I'm open for questions. We're going to share these slides, and I will share some exercises that I'm developing for a book I'm writing called Networking Powering Tools with your team, so that you guys can continue the learning and put it into action. So maybe our organizer can tell us, does he have a question? So does anyone in the audience have a question for me? Okay. I know that sometimes in these situations, people can be a little bit bashful about asking questions. So I'm going to give you maybe some of my ninja tricks. And then if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. So let me talk about this trick. It's quite powerful. Many of my students have used it to make powerful relationships. So if you think about an industry organization, right? Like, so let's say you want to become one of the most powerful people in an industry association. You look at that association, and who should you approach in that organization? Who do you want to be your friend? You want to be friends with the past chair. Now, the reason you don't want to approach the current chair is busy running the organization, right? But the past chair is like your parents when you left home, right? they don't know what to do with themselves. They spent 20 years becoming president. They were the president. They were in their glory, and now they're the past president, and somebody else has that glory. And so everyone is going to the current president. You want to go to the past president, the past chair of the organization, because they still know everyone. They're liked by everyone. They've got all that industry knowledge. And if you're mentored by the past chair of the association, that person is still quite powerful. And so people will know that you're his mentor or her mentor, and that will immediately make people want to do things for you through association. And that person is going to be one of the people that knows when opportunities present themselves. So make sure that you identify the past chair of the organization that you're interested in being in, and get to know that person, right? Because you can that will make a huge acceleration for you. You will become one of the leaders in that space. And basically all their years of work, you get the benefit from, and so that turbocharges you as an individual. So try to become mentor, develop a mentor relationship with the past chair. Now, it's important when you're developing a mentor relationship that you don't just think about it as one way. If you want something in life, you usually have to begin by giving, right? And so it's important for you to get out there and give. And I promise if you give, you'll start to receive. So try to figure out ways that you can be of service or helpful to that past share. It could be something as simple as sending them articles that they would be interested in. So if you meet that person, you find out what they're interested in. Maybe they're interested in sustainable farming. Then you set up Google alerts about sustainable farming in Nigeria. And by doing that, you'll get those articles every day, and you pick up the best one and send them a message every once in a while. Now, don't do this every day because it can be weeks. Give them something that's useful. Google Alerts is a great way to do that. Also, if you're following the best people in the industry, you will be one of the first persons to see things that people will post, and so this is a good way for you to make connections there as well. I'm going to give you guys an idea of how I got started in my business. Sometimes people are how do I say, not sure how to get their first customers. So I'm going to give you an idea of how I got my first customers. One of the things that I did, I had moved to New York City the weekend before 9/11. So 9/11 happened. A lot of people were afraid. They were leaving the city. And when they were leaving the city, there just seemed to be a lot less opportunities. In the wake of that, I decided that I had to stay in New York. And so I decided I would start my business. And at that time, I had no customers. I had a cell phone and a laptop, and I had to find customers. And the way that I went about finding customers was the first thing I did was I reached out to one of the leaders in the consulting industry, one of the founders of a company called Accenture. They have a couple 100,000 consultants around the world now. And I happened to have met this man and developed a relationship and a friendship with him. And so I reached out to my friend Pete, and I asked Pete, Pete, I'm going to start a global consulting firm. And Pete knew I just had a cell phone and a laptop, so he laughed a little bit. And then he said, John, you got to figure out why somebody should buy from you. I'm like, okay. And he said, you have to find a way to reverse the risk. Okay. And so that was the essence of the call. And after the call was over, I didn't know how to operationalize this thing, right? So how do I establish to people that I'm worth their money, right? So if somebody buys from you, they're giving you value. And so you have to find a way to reverse that risk. I went to a grocery store because I knew how to buy food, and I was walking through the grocery store. I saw people giving out samples, and I realized that that's how people get you to try their food product. They give you a free sample, and now that's pretty common. We know as freemiums. But in the early 2000s, this was a relatively revolutionary idea. So in 2001, I was doing freemiums. I went back to my house. I created a PowerPoint presentation. The PowerPoint presentation was called Technological Innovations in the Financial Services Industry. And it had about 25 slides. I took that presentation and I sent it out to my 250 people, right? So I created something that was useful, that had value, that really showed my expertise in that area. And I shared that presentation with my 250 people. And at the bottom of that presentation, I put a simple line that made all the difference, I think. I said, if you found this presentation useful, forward it on to a friend. If you found this presentation useful, forward it on to a friend. The next day, I get a call from a man who invites me to be a speaker to a group of bankers in New York City in 2 weeks. The following day, I get a call from the managing director of the largest consulting firm in Japan. And he says, John, I saw your presentation. I'm coming to New York to meet you. Now, I didn't have an office. I didn't have a website. I didn't even have business cards. I didn't know that giving out a presentation would work. So I quickly thought to myself in the lobby of his hotel, and they became a client for 10 years. And I built my business in the beginning on writing research reports for some of the largest companies in Japan. And that was all built on providing useful information and then sharing that to my 250 people. So that was my skill. That was the thing that I was particularly good at. For each and every one of you, you're going to have different skills. It might be sustainable cosmetics, whatever it is, but find a way to create a sample of what it is that you do. I often find that sharing knowledge is a great way to do this because, knowledge doesn't take much in the way of ingredients. You can write a presentation, or you can create a piece of art, or you can whatever it is that you're particularly good at, use that medium as a way to share with the world your gift, whatever it is that you're good at. One of my students has a business painting murals, and the way that she does that is she will market her art through posting on social media examples of her art. People will see it and buy it, and then she has built up a following. She went to local businesses and said, you could spend $50,000 to buy a billboard, or I can paint your wall and you'll have it forever. And she said, nobody takes pictures in front of a billboard, but people will take pictures in front of a really good mural. And so this has helped her book murals out over 18 months. She created pop-up stores to sell her art, and now she actually does pop-up stores for other people. All right. Okay, so that, let's see, what do I, please, okay. I'm trying to follow my directions here, guys, sorry. I have some videos as well that I have some lectures that I've created that we can share with you. Are there any questions that you guys have? I always like to give people an opportunity to ask questions. I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you. I can't hear you. Yeah. Here, let me try.
Can you hear now?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a question here. How do I build credibility to connect with the top people in my industry? What would give somebody the conviction to want to work with me or connect with me?
Okay, great. I love it. That's a great question. So one of the things that will make people want to work with you is if they show that you're sincere and you're giving, right? So it doesn't matter what stage you are in your career. At some point, there is, that person was in the same stage that you're in, right? So one of the things that I recommend that my students do is find somebody who's doing the thing that you want to do, somebody who's 5 or 10 years ahead of you. And then just ask that person for 10 minutes. And if they don't respond, tell them, look, I will give you an hour for every minute you give me, up to 10 minutes as a volunteer to your favorite charity. So if this is the past chair of your industry association, that's quite a good deal for them, right? So it's showing them that you respect their time and that you're willing to pay something for that, right? So if you volunteer at their favorite charity, what that's going to do is you're going to start to make contact with them, right? So now they're going to reply. Their assistant's probably going to tell you what charity to belong to go do volunteer work with. You have your 10-minute meeting with them. In that meeting, you want to ask 3 questions. How did you get into this industry? That's going to tell you their origin story, and it's going to make them feel connected to you because they're going to remember how they were getting into the industry. What have you learned that's helped you be successful? So you're going to learn something that probably cost them time, tears, or money, and you're going to get it for free just by asking. And then the third thing is you're going to ask them, what can I do, right, to become a leader in this industry? So that's going to help you build your roadmap. It's going to make them feel connected to you because they're going to remember when they were first starting. And if you do this with enough people in an industry, they're not going to know what the other people said, right? So they're going to start to be interested. What was the most important thing that Jeff learned, or what was the most important thing that Gift learned? And so you actually have an asset now. I helped one of my friends who was the former head of payments for Google when he was leaving Google. And he was trying to figure out, how do I start a coaching business? And I told him, go out and talk to 100 people you want to serve. And so my friend went out and reached out to, the chairman of Google, the CEO of Google. He reached out to all of the senior executives at Google, and he did over 100 interviews to find out what was the things that made them successful in their career. And then he came back to me and he said, John, now what do I do? And I said, well, we could make a book, but nobody reads books anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to dribble this out on social media. And so he started to put out these pieces of wisdom that he learned from people. And he went from 500 connections to over 10,000 connections. Stanford saw that he was posting these things, and they came to him and said, would you be on our leadership faculty and teach a class at Stanford? So this helped somebody who was, one of the most senior executives at Google increase his authority, increase his reach, and get more opportunities. It worked for him. It will work for you, right? So if you are out there talking to people and doing this research and then sharing it, that's going to help you build authority and credibility, right? So remember, there are 5 things that I do every day. 5 things, and every one of you guys can start doing this, right? So the first one is I give people useful knowledge. The second one is I give people PR opportunities. So it's cool if you get in a newspaper or you get in a publication, but it's even cooler if somebody does that for you, right? And wouldn't you feel like a strong connection to somebody who would do that for you? So, I became friends with the chief operating officer of Goldman Sachs by giving him an audience, right? By giving him an audience of CPAs to talk to. So if you can give somebody a PR opportunity, they are going to remember that and value you, right? The third one is an opportunity to make money, right? So if you're connecting people and they make money, both of those are, they're going to be valuable for you. those connections themselves. If you make an appropriate connection, so this is something I made the mistake of in the past. I would make connections with people thinking that they could see the value that I saw in them connecting. It's important that you spell out to people why you're connecting to them, right? So why are you connecting them, and what value do you expect them to get out of that connection? And then make sure that they want that connection. The fourth thing is fun, right? So don't you want to help people that are just fun to be with? Like people that show up and have positive energy. Like whenever Gift shows up with energy. Like the room changes with Gift's energy, right? And so you just want to do things to help Gift because she brings you up every time she walks into a room. So you want to be that person with other people, right? You want to help make them laugh, smile. And the great thing, the more you do that, the better you get at it. It's a muscle just like any other muscle, right? So those are the 5 things that you can do. It doesn't matter what stage you are in life. You can do those 5 things and you will start to build relationships. And then those relationships translate. Don't be afraid to approach people who seem like, they're untouchable. Just go out and ask, right? You can charm anyone. So I'm going to send an article to you guys about how I charmed a billionaire who just happened to be sitting next to me at dinner one night. When you go someplace, I want you to always bring a prop. So whenever I go someplace, I bring a physical book. And I've met hundreds of people just by bringing a physical book with me, right? So bring a physical book with you wherever you go. And the reason that I want you to bring a physical book is it gives you a prop, right? So if you're going to reach out to somebody that is in your environment around you, you can just ask them about the book. So, I just read this book by Joe Girard, and Joe Girard says you should treat everybody like a millionaire. What do you think about that? Right? So ask them a question from the book, and that can start a conversation. When you're talking to people, you don't want to ask them 2 questions. The reason you don't want to ask them these 2 questions is you're going to have the same conversation with them as everybody else. So we tend to have the same conversations over and over and over again. And you want to avoid that. So you never want to ask people where they're from or what they do for a living. Everybody asks them those 2 questions. Never ask those 2 questions. It's a guarantee if you ask those 2 questions, it's going to be the same conversation that they have over and over and over again. Instead, ask them a unique question, right? Ask them about if it's a woman, ask her about a piece of jewelry. Usually women like to wear jewelry that has a story. And if you recognize that piece of jewelry and you let them tell the story, they feel a connection to you. Look at what books they have. What do they have on the wall? Ask them about something that you have a connection with or something that's unique, and let them tell you that story. And then if you want to take this even further and do something really cool, when you're thanking somebody, like you're thanking that chairperson, so this is a true story. It's something I did that was just incredible, but it was completely by accident. I wrote an article. Remember I talked about giving PR as a way to build relationships? I wrote an article with the former head of payments for Google. So that's how I met him. I reached out to him. I wrote an article with him and it gave me the opportunity to have a conversation with him about his career and ask him questions. Wrote that article. It was published. And I wanted to thank him, so I had created a cartoon to go with the article. And so I blew up that cartoon, I framed it in museum glass, and I sent it to him. What do you think he did with that cartoon? He hung it on the wall of his office. So when somebody walked into the office of the head of payments for Google, what's the first thing that they saw? They saw this cartoon that I did. What's the most distinctive thing that stands out in the office? The cartoon. What are people going to ask him about? The cartoon. What story is he going to tell? He's got to tell my story. So how much would it be worth to you to have a leader in your industry, the chairman of some organization, tell a story about this nice man that I met who helped me, share wisdom with young people in my industry, right? So that was a gift that just kept giving, right? And maybe to this day, I don't know if he still has it up on his wall, but it's one of those things that you can do. Sometimes by giving gratitude, you're making connection. So a great way to reach out and make friends with people is by giving them the opportunity to amplify their impact, right? So I've made friends with a lot of people. I made friends with the head of licensing for GI Joe because I asked him to help a group of football players, European football players, not American style football players, soccer players. I had a group of soccer players from Latin America and Africa, from Ethiopia and Somalia, and they all thought they were going to be professional soccer players. And so I got a professional soccer player to tell them what it took to become a professional soccer player. And then he also happened to be the head of licensing for the GI Joe brand. So who cooler than a professional soccer player who was the head of GI Joe licensing, right? I got to be really good friends with him. And today he comes to me for advice. But the way that I met him was asking him to speak to my soccer players, giving him an opportunity to help young people. So, you can be a conduit to help people, help other people. You can reach out to people and, raise their profile in an industry. You're going to become more valuable as you learn expertise and share expertise and ideas on your social media. And it doesn't cost you anything to do that. You can be anywhere in the world. I'm in Iowa, right? And I have people coming to me from all over the world for advice. And that's something that each and every one of you guys can do as well. So the biggest thing that holds people back from getting the thing that they want is that they don't ask for what they want. You got to ask for what you want, and you got to give value to people. And the more that you give value to people, the more inclined they're going to be to give you what you want.
Wow, beautiful, awesome. I'm so excited to have this session with you, John. It's quite insightful. There's a lot to learn, and we could go on and on and on. It feels like we should do this for another hour or so, but we've got to go now because of our time constraint. I would say we're looking forward to your book, John. When are you expecting the book to come out?
All right, so I'm making a public commitment here. I will have this book done by next May. The book is going to be not just my wisdom, but I'm going to reach out to 100 of the top networkers in the world. So I've already started doing that, and I've done some of that research. One of them got the Dalai Lama, so she tells the story in the book of how she got the Dalai Lama to endorse her book. One of them was completely lost when he started his business. He was showing up in the wrong rooms, right? So he was going to the wrong events and promoting himself to the wrong people. And he became nationally known for what it is that he does when he switched his efforts and focused them in on the right people. So there's a lot of really valuable, useful information that will be in the book. It will contain the wisdom that I have and the wisdom of 100 of the best networkers in the world. I will share that with you. And in the meantime, if you follow me on social media, I will share something with you that's useful every single day. And that's a promise. And if it doesn't generate $10,000 for you, look me up. I'm easy to find.
Wow, that's a serious guarantee. Okay, you heard John. Everybody on Facebook and on YouTube. So we've got to follow him on all social media handles. I think I'm looking at his Facebook page account here, John Paul Angel. Thank you so much, John, for being part of this event today. We look forward to having you again some other time. You enjoy.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you so much.
And how do I say thank you in Nigerian?
Okay, so we've got over 200 languages, John. I don't know which language you want to.
All right. So hug is a thank you. Appreciate you guys.
It's universal.
Ciao.
Rainy day, stay warm.